Um, uh, into this video, it's gonna be the last, I think, example of single dimensional array. And after this video, I'll be discussing multi-dimensional array, and then eventually we'll be discussing pointers, and that will be the last topic of C programming language. And then I'll be shifting to another programming language, right? So that's it. And I might be tackling about Python or some other languages, right? So for now, I'll focus on single dimensional array, and I'm going to discuss a program that will ask for elements of an array. Say, for example, 10, 9, 11, 13, 20, and then after that, our program will tend to sort, right? It's either ascending or in a descending order. Okay, that is our topic for today. Okay, so prior to my discussion, I would like to request to please click subscribe, okay, and do some sharing of this video to your classmates, friends, relatives, right? Especially to those people who are, trying to learn programming. And as I always said in here, the best way to start learning programming is to start C programming language. And this YouTube channel is actually you can find the complete discussion about C. All right. So here, um, I am going to share my notepad. I will be creating a program or discussing a program that is capable of what? Sorting an array in ascending order. And we'll try to use one function only. Okay. Again and again, it is my intention to have only one function, though as I look at the program, I can slice it, or we can have even 4 or 5 functions. But then as much as possible, I tend to do some shortcut of my discussion, just to save your data, your cell phone load, and so on and so forth. Okay. So here, our program will ask for an elements of an array, and then it will sort. Okay, the value will be sorted in ascending order, and eventually it will be displayed on the screen, right? And we'll be using array variable in here. So here, I did have one function only, and this function is to get for a size of an array as to how many values that we're going to ask for. All right. And I have here again and again, I tend to make max size as a constant 100. So meaning at any part of the program, if I'm going to use max size, I tend to use 100 as value, right? And I declared R as an array variable, and the size, the maximum size is 100. And this in size actually will tend to call the function get size, just to get the size of an array, or as to how many elements that we are going to ask from the user. And this int I is for my for loop, and again this g also is for loop also, because as we tried to do some sorting, we need to do some shifting of values. All right, and we need to have nested loop in there. Okay, so it is quite impossible for us to do some sorting without using nested loop. And again, temp is a variable that will serve as a temporary storage, because in sorting we'll be swapping values. Okay, we'll try to ask as to this array index is greater than this array index, and if that's the case, then do some shifting or swapping so as to sort the data from lowest to highest. Okay, the logic of here. Look at this. Um, as I said, this variable will try to call get size, and from here our program will, or the C compiler will try to locate get size function. So here, this is our get size, all right, and it declares what? Local variable size. By the way, this size here and the size here are actually two different variables. Okay, so just I decided to have the same, the same name, just not for us to, to not to be, for you to not to be confused with the variables. I can even have x in here, and at get size function I can even have y. So it depends, right? So this is a local variable, and this size can only be used within the bound of this get size. And here, because of this printf, enter size of array will be displayed on the screen, and then our program will ask for a value, say for example 3, to make the discussion shorter. When we press enter k, this 3 will be stored to size, right? Because that is the function of scanf. So our local variable size now has a value of 3. Are you following? And here, return size means what? Return whatever the value of size to the calling party. The calling party is also size. So this time, size now has a value of 3. Okay? So this line in here will be displayed, because the function of printf statement is to display whatever is inside the double quote. Okay, so enter elements in array will be displayed, right? And \n means what? Move down. Okay, and here look at this. This loop statement here will ask for elements of an array, and using what? Using size as the upper limit, meaning whatever is the value of size, then that will also be the total number of times that this loop body will be executed. Okay, so in here I is being initialized to 0, right? And then our for loop statement will then compare as to whether your I, which is 0, is less than the size value, which is 3. So in this particular condition, the condition is true. And since the condition is true, what's next? Execute this one. So ask for a value, and that value will be stored to array variable r index I. Okay, so if for example we give 5, and after pressing enter k, 5 will be stored to r index I. How much is our I? Our I is 0. So at this time, r index 0 has a value of 5. And curly bracket means what? Go back. Alright, go back and increase the value of I, because of that I++ here. I++. So I now becomes 1. Previously it was 0. And then our for loop will ask whether our I, which is 1, is lesser than the value of size, which is 3. And this time the condition is true, and since true, perform the loop body. Okay, so the loop body says ask for a value and stored it to r index I. Our I is 1, right? So if for example we entered 4, then 4 will be stored to r index 1. Okay, and then curly brackets again, it goes back, and when it goes back, I++ will be executed. So we are going to increase the value of I, and at this time our I now is 2, right? And check if your I is lesser than the size. The condition is true again, right? And then ask for a value, and that value will be stored to r index I. Our I is 2, Okay, so for example, if we give 3, when we press enter key, 3 will be stored to R index 2, right? And then curly bracket demands us to go back and increase the value of I. So at this moment, our I has a value of 3, right? And the condition will be checked. Is your I, which is 3, lesser than the size, which is 3? The condition is false. Now, since the condition is false, what's next? Do not execute this one, but instead look for statement right after curly bracket. And the next statement is what? Another for loop. And this for loop contains another for loop at the inside. And at the inside of this inner for loop is a conditional statement. So in this group of lines, our program will sort. Okay, it will check as to our R index 0 is greater than R index 1. If that is the case, then swap. Okay, that is why we have here temp. Now, if you can recall, if you're following my video, I have this single video that discusses about swapping of values. Okay, the same logic here. I am using here a dummy variable temp. Okay, just to preserve the value of the higher one, and eventually to swap the value of temp as a dummy variable will be restored by way of assigning that to another array variable and another index variable. Okay, so that's it. So here our okay, please follow my screen. Our I is being initialized to 0. Alright, and then our for loop statement is asking whether our I, which is 0, is lesser than the size. Okay, somewhat similar to the previous one when our program asked for elements of an array. And then if this condition is true, which is actually true, what's next? It will get inside to the inner loop, and the inner loop says what? J is equal to I, so I plus 1. Good as saying J is equal to the value of I, which is 0, plus 1. Alright, and that is equal to 1. Are you following? Okay, and our for loop statement now is asking whether our J, which is 1, lesser than the value of size, which is 3. The condition is true. So since the condition is true, get inside the loop body of the inner for loop, the nested for loop, and evaluate, execute. Okay, so it's a conditional statement, and it is asking whether ER index I or R index I. Our I is how much? 0, right? Is greater than R index J. How much is our J? Our J is 1. Are you following? So our J is 1. Okay? Good as saying what? Is R index 0. How much is our R index 0? Our R index 0 is 5, right? Good as saying is 5, alright, greater than R index 1. Our R index 1 is 4, right? 4. Is 5 greater than 4? The condition is true. We are now trying to sort ascendingly. Okay. Now, since the condition is true, then let's do the sorting. Okay, let's do the sorting. And the sorting says what? Temp is equal to Ri, meaning R0. Our R0 contains 5. Alright? And then the next line says Ri, meaning R0, is equal to whatever is the value of Rj. Rj, or good as saying R1, contains how much? Our R1 contains 4, right? So we are now trying to store 4 to R0, right? R0. And the last statement for if statement is what? Try to store, right? Whatever is, okay? Store R1, store temp to R1. Our temp contains 5, right? This is actually the value of R0. So that's 5. Sorry. We'll try to adjust. Okay, that's 5. So in here, if you can see the present value of R0, right? Look at this. The present value of R0 is 4. Okay, and the present value of R1 is now how much? 5. Okay, so it's 5. And here, look at this. And here, this one remains the same. It's still 3. Okay, so let's continue. Here comes the curly bracket. This is actually the curly bracket of the inner loop. So it will go back. And when it goes back, G++. So increase the value of G. Our G now is how much? Our G now contains what? It was 1 before, right? G was 1. G++ means that's 2. Okay? And check the condition. Is G lesser than the size? Meaning, is the value of G, which is 2, lesser than 3? The condition is true. Now, since the condition is true, get inside and perform. Alright? It is now trying to check as to the value of Ri. How much is our I? Okay? Our I stays at 0. Right? So, R0, okay, is R0 greater than Rj. Our J now is 2. Okay? We are now trying to compare what? Whatever is the value of R index 0 to R index 2. So look at this. Our R index 0, let's go back in here. Our R index 0 contains 4 now. It was 5 before. Okay? And it is now 4. So is 4, right, greater than the content of R2. Our R2 contains 3. And it is still 3. Right? It's 3. The condition is true. Alright? Now, since the condition is true, then do some swapping. Temp must contain how much? Whatever is the value of R0, Ri. Our R0 is how much? 4. Right? So, it must be 4. And then, R0 must contain Rg. Okay? So, R0 must contain Rg. Rg means what? Rg is 2, R2. R2, and that's 3. Okay? So, it should be 3 in here. And next is what? Again and again, we'll try to do some adjustment. Okay, I'm sorry. So here, the next one is Rj must contain whatever is the value of temp. Rj, what? R2 must contain temp. How much is our temp? Our temp is 4. So at this point in time, look at this. We'll try to refresh. Our R0 now contains 3. Okay? Please follow. Our R0 contains 3. And our R1, how much? our R1 remains the same. That's still 5. Okay, and then our R2, how much is our R2? Our R2 is 4. Okay, it's 4. So originally 3 is at R2 and now it's in R0. So we are now sorting the value from lowest to highest, ascending order. So let's continue. After swapping, all right, exit, and here comes the curly bracket for this inner for loop. It will go back, and when it goes back, G++ again. So G++, how much is our G now? Our G now is 3. Okay, please follow my screen. It's a little technical, but we have to understand the flow. Then check the condition. Is our G, which is actually 3, lesser than the size, which is 3? So at this time, it's not anymore true. The condition is now false because 3 is not lesser than 3 anymore. Okay, so since the condition is false, do not perform this one. Okay, but get out of this one and another curly bracket then. So in here, another curly bracket. And this curly bracket is for the mother for loop. So it will go back. And when it goes back, alright, I++, meaning increase the value of I. So our I now becomes how much? 1. Because previously it was 0. And now it's 1. Okay? So I now is 1. Right? And it is not checking the condition. Is our I, which is 1, lesser than the size value, which is 3? The condition is false. And perform the same again. Loop. Okay? Repeat the same evaluation, the same execution. Right? So since the condition is true, get inside. When you get inside, sorry. Okay. When we get inside, we are again initializing the value of G. G is equal to I plus 1. Our I this time is 1, right? Plus 1, that's 2. Okay? Our G is 2. And it will check the condition. Is our G, which is actually 2, right, lesser than 3? The condition is true. Now, since the condition is true, what's next? Execute this one. We'll again sort. Sorting will be executed again. So it will check, because this is a conditional statement, is R index I. How much is our I this time? Our I is 1, right? Are you following? Is R1, okay, greater than R index G? How much is our G? Our G is 2, right? So good as saying what? Is by the way, we'll try to have some bars. Is R1, how much is our R1? Our R1 now is 5. Okay? Is 5 greater than R2? Our R2 now is how much? 4. So is 5 greater than 4? The condition is true. Now since the condition is true, what's next? Get inside and execute these three executions. So execute what? Temp must contain whatever is the value of R1. R index I. Our I is 1. So R1 contains what? 5. So 5 will be stored to temp. Alright? And then the next one is R index I, meaning R1 must contain the value of RG. Our G is 2. So R2. Our R2 is how much? 4. So we are now storing 4 to R index 1. And the last line is what? RG, meaning R index J, which is 2, must contain the value of temp. Our temp is 5. temp is 5. Okay, so here we'll try to refresh the value. Our R0 remains the same, that's still 3, and our R index 1 is now 4. Okay, and our R index 2 is now how much? 5. Okay, so indeed we are able to sort the value in ascending order, but the execution did not stop in here, so we'll continue. Now, curly bracket of conditional statement, it will end, and another curly bracket for the inner for loop statement. It will allow us to go back, right, and increase the value of g. Okay, so g plus plus. So our g was how much? Our g was 2. This time g plus plus, that's 3, and it will check the condition. Is our g, which is actually 3, lesser than 3? Right here. So the condition is false. Now, since the condition is false, do not perform this loop body. Exit, and when we exit, another curly bracket for the main for loop. So we'll go back to the main loop statement, and as we go back, I plus plus will function. So this time our I is 2, and it will check again. Is 2, right, lesser than 3? The condition is true. Now, since the condition is true, we'll try to get inside the loop, the inner loop. The inner loop says initialize g by saying I plus 2. Our I is 2, right? Plus, look at this, j is equal to I plus 1. So our I is 2 plus 1, that's 3, right? And it will check the condition. Is our g, which is how much? 3, right? Please follow my screen. Is our g lesser than the value of size, which is 3? Condition is false. Now, since the condition is false, do not perform the loop body and exit. And here comes another curly bracket, it goes back again, right? When we goes up, I plus plus, so that's 3, and it will check here. Is I lesser than size? Is I, which is 3, lesser than size, which is also 3? This time the condition is false. Now, since the condition is false, exit from the loop, and the next thing is we have to print this. So it will display what? It will display elements of array in ascending order. Okay, and then look up here. This lines here will display whatever the elements contain. Okay, so we have here what? We have here what is this? I is equal to 0, and then is I, which is 0, lesser than size, which is 3. The condition is true. Since the condition is true, perform print whatever is the value of R(i), R0. So meaning we will display what? R sub or index I. Our I is 0. Okay, we'll be displaying the content of R0. Our R0 is how much? Okay, our R0 is 3. So 3 will be displayed in here. Alright, 3. Alright, and then space, 2 beacon space we have in here, right? 2 beacon space, and then curly bracket means go up again, and when we go up, we'll try to execute I plus plus. So our I now is 1, and it will check again, is our I, which is 1, lesser than 3? Now the condition is true, then we need to display the content of Ri. Our I is 1, so R index I is in here. So our R1 is how much? This is our R1 and it contains 4. So we are going to display 4. Okay? And then curly bracket again goes up, and when it goes up, it is now 2, and it will check is 2 lesser than size, which is 3. Again, the condition is true, and we need to display what? R index I, meaning index 2. Our R2 is how much? This is our R2, and it contains 5. So we are going to display 5. And it goes back. And when it goes back, how much is our I now? It's a tricky discussion, right? I now is 3. Check the condition. Is 3 lesser than 3? This time, the condition is false. So it will exit. And the next thing is return 0, meaning terminate the program. So this is now the screen output. It is quite a longer discussion than my previous video, but I'd love to suggest to you guys, please explore and expose yourselves in this program. Try to copy and paste in here, okay? Right? And do the same. Make use of your own online compiler and do some execution, manual simulation, right? And after manual simulation, we'll try to do online compiler. Let's see what is really the result using C compiler, okay? This is actually the same program that I was discussing a while ago. Okay. So I have one function in here, get size, and I have this 3 lines for swapping, if you can remember, or my previous video, right? And I have here this line to ask for the elements in array, and I have here another lines for displaying whatever is the content of an array after what? After sorting, right? This is ascending order, and when we are going to display descending order, you have to change the conditions, the same swapping of variables, okay? Now we'll try clicking run command. Let's see if the result is okay. Enter size of an array. We'll try to use 3 because this is our example, 3. And it is now asking for the contents or elements. So let us say 5, right? 4 and 3, right? If you can remember, we have here 5, 4, and 3, right? And when you press enter K, our program displays elements of an array is how much? 3, 4, 5. So go back in here, 3, 4, 5. So meaning our manual simulation is correct. Okay. We'll give another example. Okay. Let's have another example. Assuming I want 10 values. So 2, 6, 3, 8, 9, 10, 34, 23, right? 12, 8. See? And now the program displays all these things in ascending order. 2, 3, 6, 8, 8, 9, 10, 12, 23, 34. Okay? So that's it. This is C programming using single dimensional array and trying to sort values in ascending order in an array. Alright? So I hope I was by the way, I'm sorry, my internet is quite slow. I hope I was able to discuss and manually simulate the program, and I hope I was able to share with you guys the behavior of single dimensional array and the logic of sorting values in ascending order. Okay, if you can be a master of this, you'll be good in programming. I tell you, this is sorting values is part and parcel of being a programmer. So you have to know the logic. There are only three lines in there to sort. You have to do swapping of values. Okay, so regardless of the number of values, if you have thousands of values, the same logic, the same flow of programs, right? You can uh, ascendingly order thousands of values using the same program. Okay, so that's it. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you like this video, especially to those programmers to be mindset people. And please do some sharing of this video to your friends, classmates, and do subscribe. Thank you so much. God bless you. God is good.